Today we are going to discuss the RCOG guideline about investigation and management for small for gestation age fetus, and this guideline was published in February 2013 with minor revisions in January 2014. Okay, we will discuss some important features of this guideline. You can see on this page that here we are going to discuss the definitions. The different definitions which are of very much importance are explained here or discussed here in this guideline. Okay, the first definition which we need to remember is that of small for gestational age. Okay, so what is SGA? SGA basically refers to an infant born with the birth weight less than 10 centile. It's very important that if the birth weight is less than 10 centile, that is called the SGA. Okay, and it's very important that historically SGA has been defined using population centile. Using population centile has SGA was defined historically. Okay, but nowadays there has been some certain changes in the definition of the SGA for the different population because of different maternal characteristics that might vary. Okay, means maternal height, maternal weight, maternal parity, ethnic group, these are all different in different patients, so we have to use this specific customized chart for each and every patient. Okay, so it is written in this guideline that with the use of the centile customized maternal characteristics, those I have explained, as well as gestational age of delivery and infant sex, identifies small babies are at higher risk of morbidity and mortality than those identified by population centiles. Okay, so instead of using population centiles, we have to use the customized chart. Those are of very much importance and they tell us a lot. Okay, now with respect to the fetus, the definition of the SGA and severe SGA vary. Okay, it's not the same as SGA and severe SGA definition is not the same. For the purpose of this guideline, SGA is defined as estimated fetal weight or abdominal circumference less than 10 centile, as I have explained, and severe SGA as an estimated fetal weight or abdominal circumference less than third centile. Okay, and what is fetal growth restriction? Do you think fetal growth restriction and SGA are the same? No, they are not same. Okay, some but not the all growth restricted fetuses or infants are SGA. Okay, while 50 to 70% of SGA are constitutionally small and fetal growth appropriate for maternal size and ethnicity. Okay, so it's not the same. Okay, and not all SGA babies are fetal growth restricted. Okay, they might be constitutionally small. 50 to 70% is the instance written here. Okay, it's written that the likelihood of fetal growth restriction in either severe infants. Growth restriction implies a pathological restriction of genetic growth potential. That is the main definition, that fetal growth restriction is the pathological restriction of genetic growth potential. Okay, and as a result, the growth restricted fetus may manifest evidence of the fetal compromise, that is abnormal Doppler, reduced Likert. Okay, so if we have a baby, if we have a fetus, we are doing the ultrasound, and if we find that the Doppler is abnormal or the Likert volume is abnormal, then we can say that this baby is fetal growth restricted or IUGR. Otherwise, it can be SGA. And low birth weight refers to an infant with a birth weight less than 2500 gram. So this is just the low birth weight. Low birth weight, if at the birth, if the weight of the baby is less than 2.5 kg, that is called the low birth weight. Now, what are the risk factors for SGA neonates? Okay, and what is the optimum method of screening for SGA neonate and care of those who are at high risk pregnancy? Okay, how we know that this patient will have SGA fetus or IUGR fetus? What are the methods that help us in detection? Okay, so it's written that method employed in the first and second trimester to predict the likelihood of SGA fetus neonates include medical and obstetric history and examination and maternal serum screening and uterine artery Doppler. So the main things are proper history, proper examination, obstetric examination, and proper investigation, which include maternal serum screening and uterine artery Doppler. So these are very important that help us in prediction. Okay, now method of screening for SGA in neonate in the second and third trimester. In the second and third trimester, one very important thing is that we need to do abdominal palpation and measurement of symphysiofrontal height using the customized chart. Okay, not the average chart can be used for symphysiofrontal height. We have customized chart and we have to plot the patient according to that, plot the symphysiofrontal height and to check that whether there is a chance of IUGR or SGA or not. Okay, now coming to the history. Okay, it's very important that all women should be assessed for risk factors for SGA, fetus, or neonates to identify those who require increased surveillance. Okay, and women who have major risk factors should be referred for serial ultrasound, measurement of the fetal size, and assessment of fetal well-being and umbilical artery Doppler from 26 to 28 weeks of pregnancy. And women who have 3 or more minor risk factors should be referred for uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation. Okay, this you can study from the table, which is very important in this guideline, and I have a separate video regarding that 2 tables. Okay, in that 2 tables written that those who have major risk factor, they should be referred straight away for serial assessment of fetal size and umbilical artery Doppler from 26 to 28 weeks. But those who have 3 minor risk factor, then in that cases we shouldn't straight away refer for a serial assessment. We should first of all do the uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation. Now, biochemical markers used for Down syndrome screening, as I have explained in the previous page, that we have to do in order to assess or likelihood of the mother to develop IUG or STA baby, we have to do maternal serum screening. Okay, so it has been shown that the second trimester Down syndrome markers have limited predictive accuracy for the delivery of STA neonates. Okay, but a low level of first trimester marker Papa A should be considered a major risk factor for delivery of SGA neonate. Okay, if Papa A is of low level, mean less than 0.415 multiple of median in the first trimester, that is the major risk factor. Now, as we have told that we have to do uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation, especially in those who develop 3 minor risk factors. So what is the importance, what is the significance of this uterine artery Doppler? Okay, it's written that in high risk population, uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of pregnancy has moderate predictive value for severely SGA neonates. Mean it doesn't have very high predictive value. It has moderate predictive value. Okay, and about it, it's written that in a woman with a normal uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation and abnormal uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation and subsequent normalization of the flow index is still associated with increased risk of SGA, and repeated uterine artery Doppler is still of limited value. Okay, so for instance, a woman gets abnormal uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation, they are at high risk of the developing SGA neonates. Although their Doppler become normal at some stages, but still they are at high risk. And now the question arises whether we need to repeat uterine artery Doppler or not. So about it, it's written that it is of very limited value. Okay, and now another thing which is written is that women with an abnormal uterine artery Doppler at 20 to 24 weeks of gestation. Okay, how we say that this uterine artery Doppler is abnormal? By either pulsatility index more than 95 percentile or notching. When these 2 things are there, then we should refer these women for a serial ultrasound measurement of the fetal size and assessment of fetal well-being with the umbilical artery Doppler commencing at 26 to 28 weeks of gestation. Okay, and it is also written that women with a normal uterine artery Doppler do not require serial assessment of the serial measurement of fetal size and serial assessment of the well-being with the umbilical artery Doppler unless they develop specific pregnancy complication. For example, APH or hypertension. However, they should be offered a scan for fetal size and umbilical artery Doppler during the 3rd trimester. Okay. Now, along with the MAPA A significance, we have some importance of the fetal echogenic bowel as well. And if we find fetal echogenic bowel, then we should do serial ultrasound, measurement of the fetal size, and assessment of fetal well-being with umbilical artery Doppler. Now, clinical examination, let us discuss this. And about this, it's written that abdominal palpation has limited accuracy for prediction of SGA fetus, and that should not be routinely performed. But it's written that after 24 weeks, serial measurements of symphysiofundal height is recommended at each antenatal appointment from 24 weeks, as this improves the prediction of SGA units. Okay, it improves the prediction of SGA units, although it has limited accuracy. Okay, and it's very important that symphysiofundal height should be plotted on the customized chart rather than population-based chart. Okay, as this may improve the prediction of SGA units, and we have explained the customized chart in the first slide. Okay, now it's written that if we plot, then what is the advantage of that? Women with a single symphysiofundal height which plot below 10 centile, or serial measurement which demonstrates slow static growth by crossing centile should be referred for ultrasound measurement of the fetal size. Okay, and then women in whom symphysiofundal height is inaccurate, for example, so in some women who are obese with BMI more than 35, those who have large fibroids, or those who have polyhydramnia, they should be referred for serial assessment of their fetal size using ultrasound. Now, coming to the point that what is the optimum method of diagnosing SGA fetus or fetal growth restriction? Okay, for that we have to use abdominal circumference and estimated fetal weight of less than 10 centile. Okay, fetal abdominal circumference or estimated fetal weight of less than 10 centile can be used to diagnose an SGA fetus. Okay, and the customized fetal weight reference have very much importance. Okay, use of the customized fetal weight reference may improve the prediction of SGA units and adverse perinatal outcome. In women having serial assessment of the fetal size, use of a customized fetal weight reference may improve the prediction of the normal perinatal outcome. Okay, and now the question arises whether we should offer routine measurement of these two parameters. No. Okay, routine measurements of fetal AC or estimated fetal weight in third trimester does not reduce the incidence of SGA neonate, nor does it improve perinatal outcome. Routine fetal biometry is thus not justified. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of change in AC or estimated fetal weight? Okay, it is that it improves the prediction of wasting at birth. The wasting at birth, for that their specific term is called neonatal morphometric indicators. Okay, and also in prediction of adverse perinatal outcome suggestive of fetal growth restriction. Now, how much should be the gap between the two estimations? Okay, it's written that when using the two measurements of AC or estimated fetal weight to estimate fetal growth velocity, they should be at least 3 weeks apart to minimize false positive rays for diagnosing fetal growth restriction. And it's also written that more frequent measurements of fetal size may be appropriate where birth weight prediction is relevant outside the context of diagnosing SGA or fetal growth restriction. Now, when should the woman be referred for serial assessment? Okay, it's written that where AC or estimated fetal weight is less than 10 centile, or there is evidence of reduced growth velocity, means static growth over 3 weeks, then women should be offered serial assessment of the fetal size at umbilical artery Doppler. Okay, now what investigations are indicated in SGA fetus? I mean to say that what are the specific investigation which help to predict adverse outcome in SGA fetus? Okay, in this guideline there are a few things written. First is that anomaly scan, then karyotyping, then screening for infection. These 3 things should be remembered. Okay, so let us study offer a referral for a detailed fetal anatomical survey and uterine artery Doppler by the fetal medicine specialist if severe SGA is identified at 18 to 20 week scan. Secondly, karyotyping should be offered in severely STA fetus with structural anomalies and in those detected before 23 weeks of gestation, especially if uterine artery Doppler is normal. Even if uterine artery Doppler is normal and we have these abnormalities shown on the scan, then we have to do karyotyping. Then serological screening for CMV and toxoplasmosis infection should be offered in severe STA. Then testing for the syphilis and malaria should be considered in high-risk population. Now, uterine artery Doppler has limited accuracy to predict adverse outcome in STA fetus diagnosed during third trimester. Now, what intervention should be considered in prevention of STA fetus or neonates? Can we do some things to prevent the STA neonates? Okay, about it, there are certain therapies, antiplatelet agents. Okay, about it, it's written that it is effective in preventing STA fetus in women at high risk of preeclampsia, although the effect size is small. Okay, and in the women who are at high risk of preeclampsia, antiplatelets should be commenced at or before 16 weeks of pregnancy. Okay, and is there evidence about the dietary modification, progesterone or calcium? Okay, no, there is no consistent evidence about this, and these interventions should not be used for this indication. Okay, now coming to the smoking cessation program. Okay, intervention to promote smoking cessation may prevent delivery of STA fetus, but the health benefit of smoking cessation indicates that these interventions should be offered to all women who are pregnant and smoke. Okay, so those women who are pregnant and those who are smokers, in that woman we can offer smoking cessation, not in every woman. Now, antithrombotic therapy, okay, appears to be promising therapy for preventing delivery of STA infants, but there is insufficient evidence, especially concerning the serious adverse effect to recommend its use. Now, intervention regarding the preterm STA fetus. Okay, women with the STA fetus between 24 and 35 plus 6 weeks of gestation, where delivery is being considered, should receive a single dose of antenatal corticosteroids. Now, what is the optimal method and frequency of fetal surveillance in STA infants, and what is the optimum test to time the delivery? Okay, at the topmost is that of the umbilical artery Doppler along with the CTG and amniotic fluid assessment by physical profile. Okay, so the topmost is umbilical artery Doppler. It's written that in a high-risk population, the use of umbilical artery Doppler has been shown to reduce perinatal morbidity and mortality. An umbilical artery Doppler should be the primary surveillance tool in STA fetus. Okay, and what is the importance of this? It's written that when umbilical artery flow indices are normal, you can check it from the table. It is reasonable to repeat surveillance every 14 weeks. So fortnightly we have to do umbilical artery Doppler and to check its indices. But more frequent Doppler surveillance may be appropriate in severely STA fetus. If the fetus is severely STA, then we have to do more frequent Doppler surveillance. Okay, now it's written that when umbilical artery Doppler indices are abnormal is when the pulsatility index or resistance index is more than 2 standard deviation above the mean for gestation age and the delivery is not indicated. Okay, this is the case when the delivery is not indicated, we have not done delivery, and that pulsatility index or resistance index is more than 2 standard deviation, then in that cases twice weekly Doppler is done in the fetus with and diastolic velocities are present, and daily in fetus with absent or reverse. When it is the case of absent or reverse, then we have to do daily Doppler. And in those who have deranged Doppler indices, then we have to do twice weekly Doppler. In case of the normal, we have to do it fortnightly. Now, CTG should not be used as the only form of surveillance in the STA fetus, and interpretation of the CTG should be based on the short-term fetal heart rate variation from the computerized analysis. Okay, amniotic fluid volume. Ultrasound assessment of the amniotic fluid volume should not be used as the only form of surveillance in the STA fetus, and interpretation of the amniotic fluid volume should be based on the single deepest vertical force rather than AFI. Biophysical profile should not be used for fetal surveillance in the preterm fetuses. Now, what are the roles of MCE Doppler and ductus venosus or umbilical artery Doppler? Okay, about the MCE Doppler, it's written that in the preterm STA, MCE Doppler has limited accuracy to predict acidemia and adverse outcome and should not be used to time the delivery in case of the preterm. Okay, in the term STA, fetus with a normal umbilical artery Doppler and abnormal medial cerebral artery Doppler pulsatility index of less than 5 centile has a moderate predictive value for acidosis at birth and should be used to time delivery. So you can see from the chart that after 32 weeks we offer MCA Doppler. It has the moderate predictive value in spite of the fact that we get the normal umbilical artery Doppler. But if MCA is abnormal, then it is very helpful in prediction of the fetal acidemia. Now, ductus venosus umbilical artery Doppler. Ductus venosus Doppler has a moderate predictive value for acidemia and adverse outcome, and ductus venosus Doppler should be used for surveillance of preterm fetus with abnormal umbilical artery Doppler and used to time delivery. Now, what is the optimal gestation to deliver the STA fetus? About this, there are very important points which we need to consider, which we need to understand so that we can decide the delivery of the patient. Okay, it's written that in preterm ST with umbilical artery absent or reverse and diastolic volume detected prior to 32 weeks. Okay, we are talking about prior to 32 weeks. Delivery is recommended when the ductus venosus becomes abnormal or umbilical velocity pulsation appears. Okay, provided fetus is considered viable after the completion of steroid. Okay, so if before 32 weeks of gestation, okay, ductus venosus becomes abnormal, then we can consider delivery. Okay, or not consider, it is recommended before 32 weeks we give steroids and consider we do delivery. Okay, and now after it's written that even when the ductus venosus is normal, delivery is recommended by 32 weeks and should be considered between 30 to 32 weeks of gestation. Okay, by 32 weeks, even when the Doppler is normal, but venous Doppler is normal, but we have the absent or reverse flow, then we have to consider delivery. Okay, and what about MCA Doppler significance? If MCA is abnormal, the delivery should be recommended no later than 37 weeks of gestation. Okay, and it is written that in the STA fetus detected after 32 weeks of gestation with abnormal umbilical artery Doppler, delivery no later than 37 weeks of gestation is recommended. Okay, and in the STA fetus detected after 32 weeks of gestation with a normal umbilical artery Doppler, it's written that a senior obstetrician should be involved in determining the timing and the mode of the birth of these pregnancies, and delivery should be offered at 37 weeks of gestation. Now the question arises, how should these STA fetuses be delivered? Okay, about this, it's written that if the umbilical artery Doppler show absent or reverse and diastolic velocity, then cesarean section is recommended because we have to do urgent delivery. Okay, now in what cases we can offer induction of labor? In the STA fetus with a normal umbilical artery Doppler, okay, with abnormal umbilical artery pulsatility index, but and diastolic velocities are present, but abnormal pulsatility index, then in that case induction of labor can be offered, but the rate of emergency cesarean sections are increased and continuous fetal heart rate monitoring is recommended from the onset of uterine contraction. Okay, and another very important point which is written in the end is that the early admission is recommended in the woman with spontaneous labor with a STA fetus in order to instigate the continuous fetal heart rate monitoring. Okay, that is all about the STA guideline. Thank you so much for your patience.